for me, then I went up to 4,100 the next month. I'm like, yay. And then January came. I'm like, uh-oh. But I made 4,400, and I was so excited about that. And then I went to 6,300 and then 6,600, and it just kept going up all the way until August when I made a little over $10,000. I think it was like 10,400.
Hey guys, it's Mike from Make Time Online, and today we're joined by Debbie Gartner, an SEO expert. So Debbie is from theflooringgirl.com, and originally she actually just started out with a normal bricks and mortar business in flooring, and she actually found that just by using her online presence and writing stuff on her website helped her to gain business for her normal business. And it was actually after having a bit of a setback, as you're going to find out in the podcast, where she basically couldn't use her business anymore. She had 2 years where she wasn't allowed to do anything with her business, where she realized that actually she could potentially, after a bit of a wobble and not really knowing what to do, she realized that actually she could potentially make money by using her website that she had already produced. And she was in fact getting over 100,000 page views per month at that time. So what she realized is that this website, which she had just been doing just to help promote her business, could actually become her full-time income. And as you will hear in the podcast, she's doing amazing things now. I'm not going to tell you exactly how much she earns, but it's a lot a month. And she is basically knows her thing about SEO. I don't think she even realized how much she knew about SEO, which is search engine optimization, basically getting traffic from Google and search engines to your blog. I don't think she realized how much she knew until she realized how well she was doing. Anyway, I'm not going to spoil any spoilers. There's so many useful tips and tricks and tools and things in this podcast, so it's definitely worth giving this a listen all the way to the end. It's a long one, so if you do want to just get the 5 key points summarized at the end, then you can skip to the last sort of 5-10 minutes and I'll summarize it for you. So Debbie, could you just let us know what it's like working in such a male dominated industry?
Well, it's good because I'm very differentiated. I haven't thought about it for a while, but I think it's a huge advantage actually being in the flooring industry and being a woman, because the key decision maker usually is a woman. So I can relate very well to her. And years ago, I had no idea about anything with flooring. I couldn't even tell you what was real versus fake, oak versus maple. I didn't know any of that stuff. So I had to learn it all on my own. And then that made it really easy for me to translate it into layman's terms. I've always been good with, color and design, and a lot of my competitors are not. So it's a good advantage because I have the technical knowledge and I also have the designer's touch. So it's a good and rare combination. So at first it could be intimidating, but overall I saw it as an advantage. And that being said, at the beginning, it was definitely more challenging to work with the guys who didn't all like taking instructions from women. So, that was hard. I hired a project manager at the beginning, so that helped. And even though he knew about as much as I did, they, of course, tended to respect him more. But, within 3 months, that completely changed because I really knew what I was doing. And, of course, I had some men that would test me out, whether it was contractors or whether it was homeowners, and they could very quickly see that I knew what I was talking about, and often way better than they did. So, it takes some time, but it's not that hard.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see how it makes you kind of stand out. Would you even say it is so male dominated anymore, or was it more just when you first started?
Well, I think the industry in general is male dominated because, I don't know, partially because it always has been. And secondly, because a lot of the men do the actual work. And yes, I know women and I had women doing the actual work. We evolved to that point later. So, either one can do it, but, a lot more men are involved in it than women. And for all I know, a lot of people pass this stuff, from father to son, although sometimes father to daughter as well. But it is what it is. So it's not necessarily right, but a lot of things in life are not right or not fair, and you just have to adapt.
Yeah. So, well, obviously you started then using your online presence to kind of get more clients and get more business and help your bricks and mortar business, basically. So how did you go from just being someone that was kind of already doing the main part of the business to then thinking, I need an online presence? What was like your first steps to realizing, first of all?
Right. I mean, it was, let's see, I probably started my stuff in around 2010 or 2011, but my business had started in 2008. So I was just, using other methods. And then I love marketing. That's just always been who I am. I have an MBA in marketing. I used to work at Procter and Gamble, if you've heard of that. And some other places. So marketing naturally came to me. And so I was always a student of everything, meaning I always want to learn and get better. And I probably I must have started with social media at the beginning and going to different meetings and learning. And someone said, oh, blogging's the big thing, So, of course, I'm slow on everything. So it takes me another year to get going on the idea of blogging's a big thing. But I started my blog, which is called theflooringgirl.com, in 2011. I started blogging on a shared platform in 2010. So 1 year later, I then understood the importance of having your own site and naming it and all that sort of stuff. And I already understood SEO, not nearly as well as I do now, but I understood it well. So I set things up from the get-go from an SEO perspective, and then just kind of went for it. And the whole idea was to get, more customers, not for that to be my only source of marketing, but to be one of my sources of marketing. And obviously only to get local customers, because people across the country were irrelevant to me. I didn't want them. I was trying to do local search. And, soon enough, I was able to get 3 appointments a week from my website, which, was great. And then, of course, that accelerated to maybe 5 appointments a week. And then at that point, we started to get really busy. So then we screened out customers. So while I still had 5 appointments a week or so from online customers, we just screened people out so we wouldn't take them all. As you're a growing business at the beginning, you're small. So you basically take on whatever client you can get. Like, I didn't care if it was an hour drive to get there. It's like, good, it's a lead, let me go. Even if I don't get it, I'll practice. And as time goes on, you get better and better. And then you're like, okay, my time is becoming more and more valuable. Let me start screening people out because they're not serious. They're not ready. They're too far away, all those things. So we started to get better and better. So then the idea was, let's just improve my close rate. So same number of appointments, but higher close rate. And then it's like, okay, close rate's good. Now let's improve the average sale. So you just move it a step at a time.
Yeah, no, it's kind of a similar thing with any type of business, I guess, isn't it? Is that at the start, you're just hustling to try and get whatever leads you can and any clients and doing the hard work. And then it sounds like you've started to really systemize things. But I just want to really pick out, obviously, the main thing that I really want to have a chat with you today about is the whole SEO, because you obviously know so much about it and you mentioned it a bit there. but I wondered if you could just share, if someone's listening to this and, they're out running or in the car or whatever they're doing, if they're hearing, well, how do I go about how do I set my website up for success for SEO? Like if you're a brand new beginner, what are some of the real basic things you need to do with your website to get it set up?
Right. I mean, there's not too much you need to do from a setup standpoint, except at the very beginning, you need to figure out, and this is what most bloggers miss, what is your blog about? Who is your target audience? And what is it that you are going to teach them? Or what is it that you are going to solve their problems for? So one of the biggest mistakes that I see is that bloggers choose to do what's called a lifestyle blog. I put that in quotes because what is lifestyle? It doesn't really mean anything. It sounds like it's good, Of course, lifestyle sounds great. I have a great lifestyle, but people are using it as a catch-all phrase, and they use it as an excuse not to focus because they don't know what they want to blog about. They don't know who their target is. I mean, if you're missing your target, all else is lost. That's marketing 101. I mean, I learned that in business school, and I probably could have figured it out without business school. And then all my jobs, everything, every time we came out with a new product, every time we were doing branding, who is our target customer? And more importantly, who is my bullseye target customer? Who am I speaking to? Is it male or female? What age? What do they like? What are their interests? What are their concerns? And that's what I feel so many people are missing. In the same way about if they're not niche specific. If you have a niche, and obviously mine is flooring, especially hardwood flooring and refinishing, and later over time it included painting as well and a little bit more home decor, but it's very focused on things that I know and things that people don't know and want to figure out. So flooring and painting are usually done together, and I could see that, in real life as well as online. So hence I expanded. But a lot of people will be like, hey, I know a lot of stuff, or I have a lot of interest. So I want to write about budgeting. I want to write about getting out of debt. I want to write about travel because I love to travel. Oh, and cooking. I love to cook and I love to eat. And I love, my kids. I don't personally have kids, but, if I did, or pets, I can write about all those because I love those. And that's the problem is you're not focused. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not focused, you're really not an expert in anything. It's really, jack of all trades, master of none. It's even like in my business, general contractors. Okay. General contractors versus flooring people versus painters versus plumbers versus electricians. They're all specialized skills. And as a homeowner, you will almost always do better by hiring someone who's an expert in what they do, right? So, last night I was at my parents' house. We had this flood, unexpected. All I know is flooring. So I know the floor is going to be okay because it's a vinyl floor and there's concrete underneath. So I know everything will be fine. But I know all the stuff it was 3 inches underwater is all ruined, Yeah. And I go down there unknowingly. I just, I get my mom's shoes, which are too big, but at least they're waterproof, unlike my suede boots. And I go in there and then I look over and I see, all these outlets and cords and I'm like, holy, I can't swear on here, but oh my God, I got to get out of here. I could get electrocuted, And I'm like, this is not my area of expertise, except I know enough that there's a problem. So I ended up calling a plumber last night. Paid a premium for it, but I don't care, it's my safety and my parents' house. So they come over at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday night, but they are the experts. Yeah. But what was interesting is when I told the plumber about the electrical stuff, he's like, oh no, I don't know electric. He's like, I'm a plumber, I tell him then that I did not get electrocuted, so he was very happy with that. So then he was willing to come over and everything. But the point is, people have expertise, and you really want to leverage that and not go beyond that. And the same thing happens with blogs, you know? So I have a lot of interest. You know, I love pets. I love cats in particular. But I'm not going to go to a site like mine to learn about cats. You know, I love astronomy. I am fascinated with eclipses and everything in the sky, but I'm not going to go to a generalist site to learn about that because they're not the experts. I want to go to, you know, whatever the different sites are. When I was learning about the eclipse and what was going on, I'm just fascinated. And if I want to learn about budget stuff, I'm going to look for a budget site, a place, or if I want to get out of debt, because sometimes people, you know, have a budget issue and sometimes people have a debt issue, and those are two different things. They really are, you know. Yeah. So you always have to go to the specialist. And so for me, I knew that I wanted a flooring site because I was using it as a marketing vehicle for my local flooring business. So I focus on flooring, but not just flooring, then hardwood in particular, hardwood and refinishing, because that is where the money's at in where I live. I live in New York, right outside New York City. So hardwood is everything. You know, carpet is an afterthought, and people obviously do carpets, but they're more likely to do runners because it works with hardwood. So I set up my whole site like that, and I basically have categories, you know, for each subject. And then I write very specific blog posts for my readers.
Can you give us some examples of your categories?
Yeah, I mean, just basic stuff like hardwood flooring, carpeting, what's another one that I have? I probably have one for laminate or laminate and vinyl. I don't even focus that much in there and haven't for years. I have another one for painting, but just very basic categories. And then I just write very specific articles in each of them based on common questions that my real life customers would ask me, you know, and some could argue that I have an advantage because I actually have a real live focus group, you know, all these hundreds of people that call me into their home each week, or at least, you know, when I was doing flooring actively, that was the case. So I saw tons of homes, tons of homeowners, and I get the same questions, you know, over and over and over again. So it's like, oh, that's a blog post. Yeah. If someone's asking it to me, other people have the same question.
Yeah, I've kind of got loads of questions I want to throw at you, but I don't want to do it all in one go. So, first of all, I'm going to go back to the whole you were saying about, you know, making sure you've got a real focus and that you're an expert and things like that. This may be, well, I'm going to ask you anyway. I want to get your opinion on this. Sure. Lots of people sometimes feel like they have this almost imposter syndrome, particularly when they're blogging. And I just want to get your opinion. Like, what makes you an expert on whatever it is that you're blogging about?
Sure. I mean, let me start by saying I don't fully understand the imposter syndrome, and maybe that's because I haven't experienced it, but I blog about what I know. And I think that that is really important. So if you blog about what you know, you never worry about being an imposter, if that's what imposter syndrome is. So I have been doing flooring for years. So I started the blog in 2011, but I have been doing flooring since 2008. So it was probably, 3.5 years, if I have that math correct, that I knew all the stuff. So I would just get questions. And by the way, when I started, I obviously did not know much about flooring. So maybe my first 3 months of being a flooring person, I was an imposter. But every time I got a question that I didn't know about, I would ask my installers and I would have them explain it to me. And if I didn't remember or didn't understand, I'd ask more and more questions. It's all about asking questions. So I had other flooring people across the country that I was friends with too, that I could ask them questions. So I just learned it. So when I started blogging, I basically just pick things that I thought were important to my customers and that I either knew the answer to, or I knew, let's call it 3/4 of the answer.
Yeah.
So then I would start it and I would outline it, and then I would do what I knew, and then I would do a little bit supplement with research on Google, and then I'd learn more. It's like, great, now I understand that, but if you're someone who's blogging about something you don't know, I guess my feedback would be, think again. And maybe that's bad advice. I don't know, but I really think you should be blogging about stuff that you really know and understand and are passionate about.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it you can always tell, can't you, on blogs and things where someone really understands it and is really passionate about it, because I guess it's just so much easier to do things that you actually are passionate about, is rather than it feeling like a chore. If that is what you're interested in, that's what you want to learn about, then it's never going to feel like hard work to do it. But then I kind of then wanted. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, what's interesting too is I have always hated writing. I'm not. Me too. A writing person. I am a math science person. That's who I am. So I just use a lot of logic and everything. And I think the way that I answer questions in general is probably from all my P&G days and all my education. So it's like, what's the question? Okay, well, here's the answer. Here are the 4 reasons, or here are the 3 reasons, or not more than 4, whatever I learned. So I just answer everything logically. And so when my customers ask me questions in real life, because it was not a black and white answer, if someone's asking, well, should I get dark floors or should I get light floors? It's not a straightforward answer, because the answer is it depends. So it's like, okay, here are the answers. Here are the advantages for dark floors, but here are the advantages for light floors. So I just do everything, like point 1, point 2. I may not say it that way, but that's how I answer it logically. And then I would do my blog post the same exact way. I mean, a lot of people tell me that it's just me talking, which I guess it is. So I write the blog post in the same way that I answer, real life questions, except I might polish it, a little bit more. It's the same outline. And that's the key. You have to do an outline of your post, so then it's logical for your reader. And by doing that, it's going to naturally be better for SEO, and then you just use your headers, your H2 and your H3 headers in the same way. And then you just translate it into Google's language. It's the same thing. You're writing for your reader, but at the same time, you want it to work well for Google or the other search engines.
Yeah. Well, obviously, like for someone that doesn't really like writing, you've done pretty amazing from blogging and from writing. So how did I've heard a little bit about like your story of how I think you started getting to about 100,000 page views a month or something when you first started to realize that you could make money from your blog, because originally it was all making money from your main business, your flooring business.
That's right. That's right.
So, well, for a start, how did you get to 100,000 page views a month?
I don't really know. I wasn't trying. It just kind of happened by accident. So when I started writing,
that's crazy.
I'm serious. I had no desire to get more page views because it didn't mean anything to me.
Can you remember like roughly how many blog posts you had, or like were you writing loads? Like how did you get there?
Oh, sorry, it's my phone.
No problem.
I have to turn this sound up. So 1 second. So basically, I just tried to focus on SEO when I wrote stuff because that was all that I knew and all that I understood. So back in 2011, there was no real Pinterest. I mean, I think it was around, but it was a private community, so not a way to get traffic from your blog. So the idea was write, for SEO. So I learned everything I possibly could. When I first started, I did not even know that SEO stood for search engine optimization. Didn't even know that, let alone how to do it. So I just became a sponge. It was another learning thing. And try to figure out how to do this so I can grow my business. But as I said, I only wanted to get local customers. So I focused more on local SEO. And then I would write these blog posts about their key questions. And I guess I did a good job of answering them, because then I got all this traffic from across the US. So, but again, it did me no good. So I didn't really care. It was more like a vanity number, like, oh, I got, 50,000 page views. I didn't even look at page views now that I think about it. It was visitors, because all I cared about was visitors who were customers. And probably the first year, actually the beginning, I almost gave up. So I did stuff and it wasn't going anywhere. So I'm like, why am I bothering? Blah, blah, blah. I started in July, and then I didn't do anything until when everything slows down, which is the weekend before Thanksgiving, because nobody does their floors between then and after Christmas. So always my traffic goes up on the December 26th, but there's this whole downside. And of course, once people put up a Christmas tree or they've got visitors coming or family, no flooring, no smells. You can't get, just nothing. Mm-hmm. So it was dead. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Because my business was not at a good point then where it could sustain itself. So I figured, let's go back to this blog. And I started writing a blog post a week. And then, I, didn't think much of it. And then January came, and then like a few days later, the phone started ringing, and my assistant was like, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know. I said, are they real customers? And they were. So it was good. So that's what happened. And then probably for a year, I wrote one blog post a week, and that's it. And that's all that I did. I did not do Facebook or anything else. It seemed like a waste of time. And then, things got busy with my business. So I would only blog once a month. Usually once a month. Sometimes I'd skip a month, but that's it. And I did that for a few years. And then, just from that, and it literally all that I did, I was well over 100,000 page views. I don't even know how many. Maybe 120,000, maybe 150,000. Again, I didn't care about page views. It just didn't matter. I wasn't doing ads, so it wasn't like I was getting money for it. And if these other people from across the country started to pay attention, great, but so what? Unless it helps me, get people in the New York metro area, I don't really care. And then at one point I put something up there for, an email list, and then all these people started signing up with my free thing. And I'm like, I'm not going to email them because they don't do me any good. So why bother? So I got rid of it. I got rid of the email list. You could argue I did everything wrong, but somehow. Yeah.
So how did you go from there to figuring out, right, this could actually make me money without me having to use my physical business?
Okay, so first of all, I didn't know for years that you could even do this, so I was just oblivious. And then I must have come across some bigger bloggers like Pat Flynn and people like that, and I learned, I can make some money. I'm like, oh, good, I get a lot of page views, so let's see what I can do. And I didn't want to do ads or anything because I didn't want it to distract from my main business, and I wanted my site to look professional. And then I started doing some Amazon stuff a little bit on the side in my spare time because I was probably working 100 hours a week or something.
What do you mean by Amazon stuff? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Affiliate marketing for Amazon. Yeah, actually, let me backtrack. I listened to him. I'm like, oh, great. I know a lot about flooring, so I'll just get a flooring affiliate, and I can make, $10,000 a month from that, and then I'll figure out something else. And I do that, and of course I get nothing. Like, I still haven't sold anything from that flooring place because people don't buy floors online or very rarely, It's a local sort of business. So then I started setting up some Amazon affiliate stuff.
What sort of stuff were you promoting, or did you find anything works with Amazon with flooring?
So Amazon doesn't really sell flooring. So one challenge after another in making this thing work. It's not easy. So I just probably did the right hardwood cleaners, hardwood flooring cleaners and stuff like that, and felt pads, all these accessories, like these little items that people might buy for, I don't know, $10 or $20 or something like that. And that's kind of all I did. I just took it with some of my posts that were getting, some traffic. And the first month I made $100 just by, putting it on there and leaving it there. And then I tried to do some more. I'm like, oh, maybe this can work, blah, blah, blah. But I made maybe $300 or $400 a month. And I'm like, okay, this is not going anywhere. I don't have time for this. Let me just focus on my floors. Okay, fast forward. End of 2016, my life took an unexpected turn, and I'm not allowed to go into the specifics of it because I have a non-disclosure agreement, if that's the right thing. But basically, very end of 2016, I had to give up my business, and I had a 2-year non-compete because I used to be part of a franchise.
Oh, wow.
So I couldn't even do flooring. So whatever I spent, I don't know, 9 or 10 years or whatever it was, everything I'd worked on was like pointless, And I'm like, what am I going to do? So I had no job, and, nobody hires anybody in December, certainly not in the home improvement industry, and not, when there's snow on the ground. You got to wait till March. I live in a very high cost of living area outside New York City. Selling my place was not an option, and such a long story. But basically, when I put the pieces together after crying for months or a month, every day, every single day, I cried and cried. And January came. I'm like, hey, let me figure out, what the deal is. And I basically found myself $68,000 in immediate debt. And then I had another $170,000 in, I don't know, I called it midterm debt. So I had to pay it off by August of 2022. And there was a deadline. So altogether it was $238,000 in debt. But my brain couldn't handle that because it felt too hopeless and impossible. I have no job. I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage or anything. And what am I going to do? So I figured, well, maybe I can turn this blogging thing into some money. Like maybe I can actually monetize and concentrate on it. But I knew it would take a while.
Yeah.
So I got 2 part-time jobs. First of all, I knew how to do blogging and SEO. So I did some freelance work, blogging for other local businesses and doing SEO for them. And then I also got a painting job. So I knew nothing about painting except what I experienced in, doing estimates with painting people at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then I just went to one of my business partners who I referred a lot of business because flooring and painting go together. And I begged him, I said, can you just please hire me? And it was January and there was snow on the ground. He's like, no, he's like, I don't need you. I don't, nobody's going to do anything. And I just begged him. I said, just part-time. I said, it would be commission only, so you won't lose any money. And then he called a day or two later. He's like, usually I hire people for the job that I need, but every once in a while someone comes my way who's just the right person. And it's like, I know I've seen you with a customer and I know that you know how to decorate. I know you can pick out colors, so I'm going to give this a try. And he did. And thank goodness. So I used that money to help keep me afloat while I tried to figure out what to do on my blog and how to monetize it. So I had all these articles already written, but they were not written with the purpose of affiliate marketing. They were just, questions that did well on search. So I turned on the ads, right away. Mm-hmm. And I think the first month I made $1,100 altogether, with the combination of the ads and the Amazon stuff that I had. And then the next month I made $1,500. I'm like, yay. And then the next month I make $1,500. I'm like, uh-oh. No, I made like $1,300 or $1,400 because February is a shorter month. Let's not forget. And I flatlined and I'm like, oh my God, this, like, what the heck? And I was very frustrated, but I just worked all the time, like blogging for other people, doing painting, and then doing my own thing and learning. I had taken an affiliate marketing course, and then a few months later, I started to make $2,000 a month. And my numbers are higher for my first year of monetizing than other people's. It's not a fair comparison because I had an established blog. I already had over 100,000 page views, but I figured, this should be easy, but it wasn't. And then I got to 2,000. I'm like, yay. I'm like, maybe it'll start going up. But no, it just flatlined. And then finally at month 11, I made $3,100. So I was like, yay. And so all the stuff started to finally sink in, the combination of understanding how to do affiliate marketing and SEO takes time for those articles to pop. So it started. And then from there, it just started to go up and up and up. It was gradually, I'd see all these other bloggers who were newer, they may not make much money their first or second month, but then they would make a lot of money and then they'd accelerate at a much faster rate. Or you read all these income reports, you're like, oh my God. The problem is you're reading the exception, not the rule, right? So it makes it seem like it's going to be easier. But for me, then I went up to 4,100 the next month. I'm like, yay. Nice. And then January came. I'm like, but I made 4,400 and I was so excited about that. And then it went to 6,300 and then 6,600 and it just kept going up all the way until August when I made a little over $10,000. I think it was like 10,400. And my numbers, by the way, are all net profit. So that's not a revenue number. That's another thing in income reports that drives me up the wall. Okay.
With you on that one.
Yeah. So I always would do the revenue and my costs because this is a business. So what is my net profit? That's all I care about. All I care about. Because I got to stay afloat. It would take $10,000 for me to survive just to pay my bills and the minimum debt that I needed to. And that's because of where I live. I went on Medicaid as well, so that helped me. But I knew as soon as the Medicaid wore off that I would need $11,000. So even at $10,000, it wasn't enough. And then then I hire a VA. And seriously, the very next day, there's a Google algorithm reset, and I lost traffic. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to pay this person? And what am I going to do? So she's like, if you want, you can we won't do this anymore. I said, no. I'll figure out a way because logically this is the right thing for me to do. But are you okay if I pay you a month or so late if I need to? Mm-hmm. So we did that. And so my income then went back to, 8,000 and then 7,500, which was devastating because I had worked so hard, like night and day, every single day for 18 months. But thankfully, Google reset on September 27th. Yes, I remember the day. So less than 2 months.
What year was this? Sorry. It's 2017.
2018. 2018. Yeah. So it went back and then everything worked better than it had before. So then in October of 2018, I made $11,000. I'm like, so while this was temporarily terrible, in the long term, it was actually good. And then I made $12,000 the next month. And then the next month I launched my SEO books, or one of my books, my very first book. And I made $14,000 for the month. So then I was feeling good, unsure, but good. So it all kind of worked out. And then from there, things went much, much higher a few months later. So it worked out because now since March of 2019, I've made over $20,000 a month net profit every month. So it's been 10 months in a row. And this may be month 11. I'm hoping, but we'll see. January is never a good month for me.
That is just an absolutely incredible story. It's just amazing that how many times you've kind of been knocked back and still keep managing to find a way to make things work. But yeah, no, the thing that I'd really love to know is, because obviously you have two SEO books, I believe now, isn't it? It's the Easy On Page and Easy Backlinks for SEO.
That's correct. Yeah.
So if you could just give us like, I don't know, maybe 3 tips from each to try and think of like 3 brilliant little things that anyone could do, sort of anyone could take away like right now. I'm really just asking this for me. So if it helps someone else, that's great. But
great. So it's hard for me to think off the top of my head because it all just comes so naturally to me at this point. But basically, let me start by saying that primarily SEO is 2 main components, and you need to have them both. And one of them is on-page SEO, like basically, what is your post about? How well is it written? Is it SEO optimized? And then secondly, what is the authority, and even better yet, your topic authority for your site? You need both of those. So on the topic or on the domain authority, actually domain authority is misleading, but basically Google has their own way that they measure authority, both general authority and topic specific authority, but nobody knows exactly what it is. I mean, years ago you could see it. It was called PageRank, named after Larry Page.
Oh,
and you could see literally when you would go to sites, if you had a toolbar installed, what the page rank of a site was.
So what about the whole Moz score or SEM Rush or whatever it is now, or are any of them any good as like a rough guide or?
Right. So you use them as a rough guide only. Okay. So what they try to do is approximate what Google values, but of course they don't really know, and they just guess. And they each have their own algorithms, and they will each give different scores, and it's a general rule of thumb. Mm-hmm. So you use it as a guideline because it's now the best that you have. So generally, as you get more backlinks, that score goes up. But it's not just backlinks. It's where are those backlinks from? And essentially, what is the authority of those backlinks that you're getting? And, is it coming from a homepage? Is it coming from a related article? How valuable their site? So generally, if you have a backlink from a higher domain authority site, and if it's a do follow link, that will be more valuable. So it's certainly not number of links, but rather where those links are from, how many links are on the page, where is your link? Like if your link is a first link, you get a lot more juice from that versus being the last link. And if there are more links, it's all split among those. So if you have an article where you're the only link, you're going to get a lot more juice versus a laundry list of these are the 50 most popular blog sites about real estate or whatever the heck it is. The link juice gets shared, right?
Okay.
And then, you'll get this because if you're a math science person, but basically then that page has its own links coming in. It's like one of those, bathroom or bathtub exercises you would do in math class. It's like the water is coming in at this speed and at this temperature and it's leaking out at this and blah, blah, blah. But essentially it's like, what are the links coming into that page? What are the links going out to that page? And it's a lot more complex than what people realize. Yeah. But conceptually, you want to get more and better links, and you want to have a diversity of links of where those come from, and you want them to be more related to your own site. So like if I get a link from a flooring site or a flooring article, that's more valuable than an article that's not related to me, if that makes any sense. So the first book I wrote, and by the way, I was not planning on doing anything related to SEO. So for years, I didn't even tell anybody I knew how to do SEO. So I'm in the online world and all these Facebook groups and learning this stuff. And I might give a tip here or there, but I did not want to publish, I know how to do SEO, let me teach you, because I had no interest in doing that and no benefit, So I was working with local customers. At that point, I didn't need any more, blah, 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 until one of my friends said, "Oh, does anybody know an SEO agency I can hire to do this stuff for me?" And I wrote to him because I knew him a little bit, and I said, you don't need to hire an agency, because I also know that there's a lot of black hat stuff out, and it can ruin your site. So I said, I think I can teach it to you, and let's just do a conference call, and I think I can, if you're willing to pay me $75, I'll give it a try. And it was great. Like, he learned a ton. He's like, "Oh my God, you should start, a website about SEO." And I'm like, ugh, boring, can't do that. And then, I just did it, but it was fun coaching him.
Yeah.
So then, I must have volunteered to do it for one or two other people because they needed help. And then word got out. And then simultaneously, my dad got really, really sick. He needed brain surgery. He's okay. But I had to get my mind off of him and do other stuff. And I needed the money. So I started coaching people, and then word spread like wildfire. And then all of a sudden I was booked out like for 3 months. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I can't keep doing this, So then my clients told me, well, write a book. And so I finally wrote a book, and I did, and it did really well. And I did it on backlinks. And then 2 months later, I did another book, again, not intending to, and that did really well. And now I have a course as well for it. But in terms of tips for backlinks, 2 quick tips, and a lot of people might know this, but first of all, I would do HARO, which is Help a Reporter Out. Oh, yeah. And it's a free site, and I think they have a paid version, but you do not need to do the paid version. Mm-hmm. So you basically get emails 3 times a day in different subjects, and you can answer those. Basically, it's supposedly reporters asking for, tips or advice for their article, and then if you write a good one, and if they decide to select you, then you might get a backlink from them. So it takes time. It's you might have a low hit rate. It gets harder now because more and more people are doing it. Mm-hmm. So you might have a 10% or maybe even 20% hit rate. And some, but not all of those will be backlinks to your site. But they can be, if they're from news sources, like that's a wonderful type of link to have. So you can do that. And it works better in some categories versus others. So it tends to work even better for like financial services, personal finance, budget, all that sort of stuff. They tend to get a lot more requests. But you can do that. So that's an easy thing to do, but it does take, some time and patience, and it's a numbers game. So you just have to work at it. Mm-hmm. The second idea is that you can do guest posts and, do ones on sites that are related to your site. You can use the Moz toolbar, which is free, to find ones that are higher domain authority. But in my ebook, I actually now include, I think it's 125 blogger sites of bloggers like you and me who allow guest posting and provide do follow links. And they all have a domain authority of 20 or higher. So some of them significantly higher than that, but there's at least a resource for people to use. And also people that buy my book that later want to be added, as long as their domain authority is high enough, I eventually add that because I keep doing updates. So those are 2, easy tips to get started.
Amazing. Perfect. Yeah. And then so we did kind of cover some of this earlier on, like the whole on-page stuff. But is there anything that maybe if someone already has a blog, so they've already got something going, but they just know it's not really organized exactly probably how it should have been at the start? Is there anything that someone could do just to make it a little bit more structured and just make the on-page SEO a little bit better?
Right. Okay. So first, before I forget, one thing that many people overlook is site speed. Site speed matters so much, and site speed equals money. So you want to have a fast page speed, and there are many things that you can do. I actually have a whole blog post I wrote about this in the last month or so, which I can give you that.
Yeah,
you can link if you want to. But whatever you can do to improve site speed will really help you. That could be things like improving your hosting. And most people look at hosting as a cost, but it's not. It's an investment. Mm-hmm. And it will it will really pay out. Almost anything that you invest in for site speed will usually pay out within a week or two. And I know it's so hard. I come from this huge amount of debt. So it's really hard for me to invest in anything, but that is one of the smartest things that will always give you a return on investment. So I have a number, I think it's like 10 different things that you can easily do. Some of them are free. Some of them are very inexpensive. But for my hosting now at this point, I pay like $93 a month, and it is worth every penny. As soon as I went up to a $35 a month managed hosting plan, my page views soared. So I was only getting maybe 150 to 170,000 page views a month, and I couldn't get past it. As soon as I fixed the site speed issues, my page views went through the roof. And right away, well, within a few weeks, I shouldn't say right away, but in a few weeks, and it just went up a huge amount. At this point now, I get well over 500,000 page views a month. Usually it's more like 550 to 580,000 a month. So it helps.
What hosting is that? Can you share that?
Oh, sure. I use Big Scoots.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
And they're really great. And they did site optimization for me. So they basically, when I joined them for free, they improved things. So my site speed had gone down to 8.2 seconds, which is horrendous. Yeah. It's because at a certain point you start getting more page views, but you only get the same amount of, I don't know the right term, but bandwidth, hosting space, whatever. And so then you're just sub-optimizing it. After they did whatever they did, it went down to 1.2 seconds.
No way. That's crazy.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
What would you say is like a good speed? Like, what should you be aiming for? Because you can basically use like Google, what is it called? Like the Google Analytics thing. I can't remember what the word is, but the site speed, the Google site speed thingamajiggy.
Right.
I'll link to it in the show notes anyway.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, so in general, you want to be 2 seconds or less. Wow. It's as simple as that. Now, I'm not sure that the Google stuff is totally accurate. And in a blog post, I think I've mentioned some other places to test. But if you think about it conceptually, regardless of what Google says, like if your page is taking more than 2 seconds to load, people are just going to leave. Yeah. Simple as that.
Is that the same even on mobile as well?
Yeah. I'm not sure if people are slightly more or less forgiving on mobile. So, maybe they're more forgiving. So maybe, and I'm making up this, so maybe they'll accept 2.5 seconds. But basically, if you don't load fast enough, people think there's something wrong. They're impatient and they just leave. Yeah. And it may or may not show up as a Google hit or not, depending on when it reaches that part of your site and that's getting tracked. But that's money lost, because I could have made money from the ads showing up on that page, but it's not. I could have made money from them, reading my post and signing up for my email list. I could have made money from them buying an affiliate product, but all that is lost. It's just gone. So it really is a real money. And people will look at like, oh my God, I can't spend $10 a month or $35 a month in hosting. And the truth is you can't afford not to. It's just that you don't realize it. Like I didn't realize it. I should have done it, at my 1 year mark. And by the way, at my 1 year mark, that month when I made $4,100, my site crashed because I did not have good hosting and I was featured on something. I got a surge of traffic. And then what happened? My site was down basically for 5 days. I think it was like 3 days where it was fully down. Yeah. And then it was up, but the ads weren't there. So I lost a lot of money. That's one of those penny wise, pound foolish things.
Yeah.
And I figured, okay, then my hosting, they messed up something with my URL structure. And then I had to spend all this time doing that. And then I didn't realize till 6 months later that things were still broken because of their mistake. So I was so stupid. Should have done it sooner. So
I'm presuming though, like a brand new blogger, there's no point in them spending $35 plus a month on hosting.
No, I don't think they should. But I also don't think that they should be doing the very basic and poor ones like Bluehost or HostGator, which is what I used to use, which used to be better until EIG took them over. But I would spend an extra $1 or $2 or whatever per month to upgrade your hosting. I would like a good one that I would recommend for newer bloggers or bloggers that don't have a ton of page views. I would do namehero.com, which is probably a tad better than SiteGround, but I forget what the price is. You might be able to get a plan for $4 a month or something. I mean, seriously, if you cannot spend an extra $1 or $2 a month, like there's something wrong with your, you're not treating this as a business because it's a business. You need to invest. And this is such an easy business to get ahead on without spending a lot of money. I had a brick and mortar business. I used to pay rent all the time for my stupid showroom, which was on the second floor, insurance, people. Let's not forget the cost of people, hiring people. And then all those licensing fees, for being a licensed contract. It goes on and on. Mm-hmm. And I mean, blogging is nothing compared to that. I mean, it was hard because, like I said, I had this huge amount of debt. And by the way, now my debt, it was $238,000, and now I'm down to $95,000.
Nice.
About 3 years and almost 1 month later, and I'm about to put another 3,000, behind that, but I should be done. But now it's at a point where it keeps making significant money and I can keep paying that down. Yeah. But even so, like, you have to invest little bits of money, and hosting is nothing compared to other business expenses.
It's so true. And I mean, it's something that, is a big part of what I'm doing is just trying to show people it's such an opportunity right now, that is out there. And like you say, there's such a little cost compared to so many other types of business. Mm-hmm. It definitely takes a bit of elbow grease and effort and time and things like that to get things going. But, you compare it to anything else, and you speak to people like yourself, and the upsides are just huge. They're like exponential, really, once things start really growing. So, anyway.
Right. And I'm not saying you need to spend a ton of money. Like, I do think investing in a few small courses and books is helpful, but I'm not saying like you need to invest in a $1,000 course and, blah, blah, but paying for these little things, basic things, which is like, running the electricity in your apartment, or, when you rent a place, you got to pay for the basic stuff. Like, this is basic fundamental stuff. Mm. And I want to get back to one of your questions, and I apologize because I am really tired. I did not get enough sleep last night. But you asked, what else can people do if they kind of haven't set things up right?
Sorry, the on-page stuff,
Yeah, so just a few quick things. So one is obviously site speed, which is very important, regardless of whether you set it up right or not. Okay, now I also talked about the challenges with having a lifestyle blog, and I'm not saying that you cannot succeed with lifestyle. I'm just saying it's much harder, so you're making your job harder. But what I would say then is, can you concentrate and be an expert in just 1 or 2 areas and dial those up and write 50 blog posts about topic A and 50 about topic B and let the other stuff go? Also, if you're newer, look at your name. Is the name of your site, does it make sense? Does it help you with your SEO? Years ago, your site name, your domain name, if you use at least one keyword, had a really big impact. It's less impactful now. But if you look at my site, I'm the flooring girl, right? So I do well with flooring. I have an edge because of flooring, and I do much better in talking about flooring than I do in carpeting. So it definitely can help. But when your reader comes to the site, do they know what your site is about? You can always keep the stuff you did. You can also de-index it as well.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah. What does de-index mean?
So when I do articles that are off topic, I usually will de-index them.
Right.
Which means I'm basically supposedly blocking them from the Google bots, so that they will not track it. So if I write stuff about SEO, which I occasionally do on my site is about flooring, and it has nothing to do with SEO. So I hide all of my SEO stuff. So I don't want my reader to be confused because they're coming to my site for home decor advice. And I could blog about blogging on there, but it makes no sense, right? So you can't really tell it on my homepage, although there's one place on my homepage where it says like my books, and I'm redoing my site right now as we speak, but it'll eventually say my books and courses or something like that. So that's the one place where if bloggers do come, they can find my SEO stuff, at least the books. But a lot of times if I do stuff off topic, I will just de-index it, meaning that I do it in Yoast, and it's pretty easy to do. There's an advanced section. You click that, and then it says you want the search engine to follow. Do you want the links to be followed? And I just say no. And I do that so it doesn't confuse Google. It doesn't confuse my reader or anything like that. So that's what I'll do. Now, of course, if I want something to rank well, doing that would be the wrong thing to do. But I don't really care about my SEO stuff is never going to rank. So like, why even try, My site is not about SEO. There are all these SEO experts that I'm competing with, so I have the steepest competition. So I just don't even bother with that stuff.
So it's worth sort of going back through your own blog and just being like, right, these are my 1 or 2 focus areas, and everything else I'm going to de-index. Does it mean that you could potentially expand there in the future, or is it like just completely dead? Just de-index it, get rid of it?
Okay, so this is more of a judgment call. So you don't need to de-index your post if you don't want to. If you have some that are doing well, like I have a second blog that we bought from a friend, and it's called healthysavvyandwise.com. And it is a lifestyle blog. It's random things. And, it probably wasn't the smartest investment, but it's certainly paying for itself. But, I had a friend who wanted to sell it, and I was like, oh, I can blog about blogging on there, not clutter up my own blog. It'll make sense. And it's doing fine. Like, I'm not making a ton of money off of it. She was maybe making $250 a month, and now we're probably making, $500 to $800 a month. But, my time is better invested in my own. But she ended up ranking for a few random things. And then I went and I just optimized those articles. So now they rank better. So, she was like in the 5th or 6th position for these keywords, and now I'm number 3. And now we make more money on those just by doing some tweaking. So, hope is not lost, but it's definitely more challenging because, it's like she's got stuff on there about cooking recipes and budgeting and blogging stuff and gifts, like just totally random stuff. So as I optimize something, it only optimizes that post. It doesn't really optimize my site, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So there's one other related post, so it helps with that post, but that's kind of all it does. So, I don't know that having all this other extraneous stuff is hurting you too much. Mm-hmm. It's more like you've missed this huge opportunity to be an expert in something. Right. So I think it's way more important to do like 50 or 100 posts about one topic and just keep running that forward, even if you let most of the other stuff fly. But if you've got crappy stuff in there, like if I have terrible posts, you can get rid of those. I mean, forget about de-indexing, just delete and redirect.
Very true. Okay, well, I could honestly talk to you about this kind of stuff for absolute hours because you can just tell there's so much knowledge that is coming out. But are there any like last other tools or courses or resources or something that you would recommend that you found particularly helpful?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I really strongly believe in diversification, and I think that is so important. So at the beginning, you just have to get started and get something to work. And for most people, that is Pinterest, and I think that's fine. One of the best resources I found for Pinterest is Carly Campbell's Pinteresting strategies, and I found that really helpful. Also, Jennifer Maker Marks has a wonderful book. It's PLP, Pinterest Launch Plan. And that's for people that really need a step-by-step, like they literally need it drawn out for them, like pin this on this day into these boards and, blah, blah, blah. The two actually work together. You don't need to get both, but I did find both of them very helpful. So Pinterest for most people is easier to do at the beginning.
Yeah.
For some people, it may just be easier to understand, but, theoretically, you can do well on Pinterest in your first month. Not everyone does, but, if you know and can make great pins, you can do well. And if you follow how to do it. Now, of course, I was very poor at the beginning because I had so much debt. So I, of course, couldn't do that. So stupid me, I'm trying to read every free blog post out there because I'm smart. I can figure this out. That was the stupidest thing ever. So I just delayed my money, because if I had spent $30 or $40 or whatever, I would have had that much more money in ad revenue to more than pay for it. So don't do what I did and be smart about some of these, small investments. So you can do that fast. SEO, I think, is great. And I think the traffic is way better. You can get way more traffic, higher quality, and make way more money with SEO traffic. And it becomes more passive. So that's why one of the main reasons I'm doing so well is that SEO traffic. So I do it and then it frees me up to work on other things like my books and stuff like that because my blog posts are just generating traffic for years to come. Pinterest is more short term and you need to keep creating more pins and you need to keep repinning every day or schedule it. And it takes more time than SEO does. But at the beginning, Google is not going to pay much attention to your site until you reach the 6-month mark. So I think it's really good to start SEO by month 3 because then by the time month 6 comes and you're hopefully getting the hang of it, then your stuff starts to rank and then you do better. People that do it later, they always say to me, oh God, I wish I had done this sooner. I wish I had done it 6 months ago, or I wish I had done it a year ago. The longer you wait, the more rework you're going to have, and the longer it's going to take you to do well. But don't think for a second that you can just do Google and nothing else. Like, you want to have a diversified portfolio of traffic and diversified portfolio of income. So for me, I get, let's call it 550,000 page views a month. 350,000 of those come from SEO, but 200,000 of those come from Pinterest. And so if my SEO stuff doesn't do as well, or someone writes a really great post and knocks me down a slot or two, I have other stuff to keep going. Email is another thing. Sorry, losing my voice here. Email is another thing that you can do. It's not the best for traffic, but it definitely helps with income generation. So if I look at where my money is coming from right now, about 50% of it is coming from affiliate marketing. And of that, 80% is from my SEO traffic because it's way more valuable than Pinterest. And then I may be a little bit off on these, but I think I may have 28 or 29% coming from ad revenue. And then the remainder, whatever it is, 20 or 25%. I'm too tired to do the math right now, even though I am a math science person.
21%.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's from my products.
Nice.
So those are my ebooks, my new course, which is Easy SEO Revamp, which teaches you how to take your existing articles and how to make those stronger to get those higher in the rankings and how to get those to generate more affiliate revenue as well because of that. So you have that, but you don't have to do books. I mean, you can do, other people do printables. Like, that's another area I want to explore. You can do real life products too. I mean, there's a lot. Bloggers are really doing amazing things. I'm just constantly in awe of all these other things other people are doing. And I'm like, hey, how do I search and reapply? When I worked at P&G, that was the thing. Search and reapply. Never copy. But what can you learn from other people, other brands? What are they doing well? And how do you apply that to your category? So But diversification is key. And had I not been getting Pinterest traffic when I went down in Google that time, I would have been much worse off.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, amazing points there as well, actually. And then, well, a question I always ask towards the end of a podcast is, and I'll give you some time to think about this. I'm going to try and pick a date, which is going to be useful. And I think I already know when it is, but I'm just going to work out. I think it was 2016, wasn't it? When you had the unexpected turn and you had to give up your business. Mm-hmm. So if you can remember, let's go to that exact day, the exact day where you actually found out you've got a 2-year what was it? Non-compete.
Non-compete, meaning I can't do flooring, but I was allowed to do blogging. So, because blogging is not flooring.
So that day that you found that out, what would be just one piece of advice that you'd give to yourself on that day?
Well, it was really hard, and I think that I needed some time to just cry it out, like literally, like losing everything I'd worked on for so long. But then I think it would have been, tell myself it's going to be okay. And to get to that place much faster. So that was Thanksgiving of that year. And it was the worst Thanksgiving everywhere, anytime. And I could barely keep myself together. And it was really hard, but sometimes you just have to have your pity party for a little bit of time and move on, but then move on faster. So if I knew then what I know now, which is I could in fact reinvent myself, and I could in fact get to a way better place now than I was before. So before I had a business that I was working 100 hours a week, and I was totally stressed, always trying to make money and always panicking every winter, because every winter you go into the red. And knowing that now I have a business that is not very seasonal. Yeah, sure, January is like not as good and I might make $20,000, which I can live with. But I don't have to worry about the weather. I don't have to worry about when it snows. And I have money coming in here even when I get sick. So I got sick in the summer for 3.5 weeks. I did nothing. My blog still made $22,000 for the month. So I was like, yay. And knowing that I now have a retirement plan, because when I get older, this blog is still going to make money for me. And that it would all actually work out, be less stressful. I can stay at home or I can go out and work in a coffee shop, whatever I want. Even though I was basically living in poverty and still somewhat am. Like I have no heat or AC in my house because all my money is going towards debt. It's not quite as bad as it sounds because I have baseboard heating, but the summer is really hard, really hard. So knowing that I could make it, it would have had my mind in a better place. I would have been able to think more logically about what I could do to make money. I could have had an open mind to think about my blog post and be able to blog instead of just crying while I was doing it. Mm-hmm. I would have been further ahead. And, if I could go back in time, not from the very beginning, but like I told you about hosting, I would have, upgraded my hosting, 6 to 9 months before I actually did as well, and invested a little bit of money in some smart, cheap investments to improve my learning. Yeah. I think that's what I do.
Amazing. Yeah, that must have been a really tough time. And it is amazing what you've actually managed to do since then.
Thank you.
But if someone's listening to this and they would like to contact you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
I don't know. I guess they can join my email list. I can send you a link for that. I actually have a free SEO intro course that people can start, and they can do that. Also, I'm a moderator in a Facebook group. I don't own it, but it's Tracy Phobes group. Oh, yeah. And I can't think of the URL right now.
That's all right.
But
I can link to it in the show notes. That's fine.
Right. It's called Blogger Education Network, and it's a really good Facebook group because a lot of people ask a lot of questions in there, and Tracy is awesome, but basically both of us, as well as the whole rest of the group, because there's talent in that group, answering your questions. So I guess that's really the best. I'm trying to minimize the messages I get on Facebook and email because honestly, it's been too overwhelming. Like, I'm so honored and glad that people like me and respect me, but I seriously could not keep up with everything. So
I've got no idea how you do it. It sounds amazing. But, well, thank you so much for your time, Debbie. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you.
Oh, same here.
So I'm sure you would agree with me that she has an amazing story, and it's just one of those proper, goes through this struggle and comes out through the other side in a better position. It's amazing what she's actually managed to do when you think about it, because for a lot of people, having that kind of setback where it's basically a business you've been working on for years and finding out you can't do anything with it for the next couple of years is enough to cripple some people. And the amount of debt that she was under at that time, immediate debt, as she explains, it is amazing that she was able to pick herself up and then just go and actually start learning something brand new. So I'm just going to summarize my 5 key takeaways from this chat with Debbie, and hopefully it will help you as well. So number 1 is that she said if she could go back in time to that day where she found out her business had basically, she can't do anything with it for the next couple of years, and she was in all this debt, she would have told herself, first of all, it's going to be okay. Just knowing that whatever situation you're in right now, it's not permanent. It's not fixed. You can learn and keep learning to improve whatever situation it is. And that was actually a message that came up throughout this podcast, I found, is she learns all the time. And as long as you're willing to keep on learning and keep improving and upskilling yourself, then there's no limit to what you can potentially do in the end. It's not going to happen overnight, but as long as you're willing to keep on learning and picking a path that actually suits you as well, is going to be super important. Number 2, and so the rest of these are all SEO related, seeing as she knows so much about search engine optimization. So number 2 is site speed. She said site speed for your on-page SEO optimization is so important. And the one thing that she said she didn't even realize how big an impact it could have was getting a good hosting. So you might see hosts for Bluehost, links for Bluehost all over the place. Yeah, they are super cheap. And yes, they might have good support or whatever it is that people might say about them. But the fact is, there's so many people that use that type of hosting, which means they're not going to be necessarily the best or the ones that are going to give you the fastest hosting. She explained how when she changed to go with Big Scoots, how her website was loading at around 8.2 seconds. And then just from them doing their thing, it went to 1.2 seconds. And she says the target is to get it to load quicker than 2 seconds. And it can have a huge impact on your whole traffic and SEO almost immediately, as she explained in the podcast. Number 3 is just focus on 1 or 2 areas. And again, this is a message that came up throughout it. She talked earlier on about how pick your ideal customer and make things that are suited for them. So just by writing, this doesn't mean just write 1 or 2 articles on it. We're talking 50 plus articles on 1 or possibly 2 areas, and really making Google know that you are an expert on this area. It doesn't mean, as she kind of explained as well, sort of explained, is that you don't necessarily have to mean you are an expert on it right now, but as long as you're willing to learn and research and do things over time, then you can become an expert on whatever it is. But obviously it helps if you have a passion and a drive to actually do those things. And then number 4, this is off-page SEO, which, as she was explaining, is equally as important. So it's not just the great content that you're writing that are helping solve a problem. You also need to get backlinks to your website, which helps Google know that you have a good authority. And again, she was explaining how you need to get good backlinks. It's not just about quantity, but 2 key ways that she said. So number 4 is using Haro, help a reporter out. It's just haro.com. And you can go on there and sign up straight away for free. And you can get, I think she said, 3 emails a day with potential questions or queries or something that a reporter wants to report about that you can provide answers to. If they choose your answer, they may put it on their website and they may give you a backlink. It's not guaranteed. As she said, it's kind of like a numbers thing. It can be a little bit time consuming, but getting those backlinks from good websites is so important. And that's an easy way for anyone to do this right away. haro.com. And number 2, or the number 5 overall, is to guest post. And so just by networking with other bloggers and other people that have similar websites and reaching out to people and seeing if there's maybe an area where you can actually help their website. So it's obviously really good if you're related to them, but if you write exactly the same thing as what they already have on their website, they're probably not going to want to put that out there. So just go through their website, see if there's an area that you know something in that potentially they're missing. So just for example, with Debbie, she's in the flooring industry. If she found someone, a painter and decorator, she could say, hey, look, I could give you a guest post about flooring, gives her a backlink to her website. It's related. It's to do with home decor. It gives her a good backlink. And that is something that would work really well. Is there something like that that you could do for your blog? Anyway, that's my key 5 takeaways. I actually ended up chatting to her for ages after the chat as well. She's just got so much knowledge. I almost wish I just kept pressing record and she was going into detail about how, just things about like niche websites and like really targeting and how it's so important to like gain this authority with Google basically to help your SEO. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to be doing anything with online marketing or blogging or whatever it is, if you're doing something online, SEO is the one thing that is going to give you the consistent long-term passive income. It's way more passive than anything else that you can do. It's not quick, it's not overnight, but it can scale and it can be long-term. Yes, they have those updates like she mentioned where her income drops almost overnight, but as long as you know that, as long as you expect it, as long as you keep on improving it, as long as you keep learning, it's absolutely going to be fine in the long run. Anyway, I'm very aware I'm just rambling here at the end, so I really do hope you enjoyed that one, guys. Thanks for listening in to this episode of Make Time Online. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes, and please take a moment to write a review for our podcast in the App Store. Keep changing for the better, guys. Take care.